She wore a uniform, the sharp lines of her jacket cutting across the sunlight like a promise of discipline, strength, and duty. But beneath that uniform, she carried a warmth I could never reach, a heart that was mine for a moment and gone the next. The day I met her, I didn't realize that the girl in crisp navy attire would leave footprints on my soul that would ache for years. It wasn't love at first sight. It was the collision of admiration and longing, the kind that sneaks into your chest and refuses to leave. She stood there, straight-backed, her eyes scanning the crowd with a focus that commanded respect. Yet when our hands brushed accidentally while reaching for the same file, her laugh, soft, fleeting, and melodic, punctured the armor she wore so effortlessly. That single laugh unraveled me in ways I didn't know were possible. I was just a young man working a modest job in the same city, unremarkable to most, invisible even. Until our lives collided, she seemed untouchable, carrying the weight of responsibility, decisions, and duty with an elegance I could never emulate. Yet every day I found myself drawn to the small things. The way her uniform hugged her frame as she moved with deliberate grace, the gentle arch of her eyebrow when something amused her, the way her lips curled around her morning coffee, oblivious to the world. I began timing my breaks just to catch a glimpse of her, my heartbeat syncing with the rhythm of her steps. It wasn't long before we shared fleeting moments, stolen glances in crowded hallways, brief conversations over paperwork, smiles exchanged that carried an unspoken understanding. She seemed to notice me in small ways that mattered to someone like me. And slowly, imperceptibly, I fell. Every day I fell a little more, even as I knew deep down that the uniform she wore was both a shield and a declaration. She was not just untouchable in responsibility, but perhaps untouchable in matters of the heart. Life is cruel in its timing. Just as my feelings reached a fever pitch, a twist of fate brought us closer in a professional sense. We were assigned to the same project, working late nights, navigating deadlines that felt impossible, relying on each other for solutions, support, and solace. And in those late nights, when the city's lights blurred outside the window and the quiet hum of computers filled the air, we laughed together, we shared fragments of ourselves. I thought she might see me, truly see me, beyond the simplicity of my existence, beyond the ordinary life I led. But love, as it often does, is never that simple. Then came the night that changed everything. I remember it vividly. Rain slashing against the office windows, the fluorescent lights reflecting off wet streets like liquid silver, and her standing there with soaked hair, eyes shining with a vulnerability I had never seen before. I reached for her hand instinctively, and she allowed it, for a fleeting second that felt like eternity. And in that moment I dared to hope. I dared to imagine a life where the uniform wasn't a barrier, where her heart might belong to someone like me. But reality has its own rhythm. She was called away suddenly, a transfer to another city, a responsibility too large to ignore, a duty that demanded her absence. And in that abrupt departure, my heart shattered quietly, painfully, like glass slipping through fingers. No explanations, no promises, just the echo of her final smile and the scent of rain clinging to her hair. I stood alone in the empty office, staring at her empty chair, feeling the magnitude of loss that words could never capture. For weeks I wrestled with the ache, the longing, the gnawing emptiness that followed her absence. Nights became long, filled with memories and what-ifs, imagining scenarios where things could have been different. But the truth was unavoidable. Some hearts, no matter how close, are bound by circumstances, and some love stories are written in invisible ink, beautiful yet fleeting. Time slowly became both friend and enemy. Life moved forward. Responsibilities called, and yet, every uniform I saw in the streets reminded me of her. Every laugh, every decisive glance, every act of courage she carried into the world. I realized that loving someone like her was never about possession. It was about admiration, inspiration, and the courage to feel so deeply that life itself becomes more vivid. Months passed, and the ache softened into something more profound, a respect for her strength, an understanding of my own capacity to love without expectation. And in that realization, I found myself opening to the world in ways I hadn't before. I began volunteering, helping those in need, reaching out to people who reminded me that kindness is the truest form of bravery. I realized that she had given me more than heartbreak. She had shown me the depth of my own heart. It wasn't easy. The first time I saw her again, across a crowded street during an unexpected visit, my heart leaped and sank simultaneously. She was the same, yet different, stronger, more confident, carrying the weight of experiences I couldn't know. She smiled, a brief, distant recognition, and I returned it, no words exchanged. No confessions needed. In that silent moment, I understood that some connections do not require resolution. Their power lies in their memory, in their ability to transform us silently, invisibly, yet irrevocably. I share this story not because I mastered heartbreak, but because I learned that admiration and love can exist even in absence, that our hearts are capable of holding someone who may never belong to us. And sometimes the most profound love stories are not about union, but about growth, the courage to feel deeply, to be changed by someone else, and to carry that change into the world. If this story touched your heart even a little, I encourage you to pause and reflect on the people who have inspired you silently, who have left marks on your soul without even knowing it. Share in the comments about someone who changed your life quietly, or a moment of love that shaped who you are today. And if you believe in kindness, in the power of feeling deeply, in the beauty of hearts that care even when circumstances don't allow union, hit that like button, share this story with someone you know, and subscribe for more heartfelt journeys. Because sometimes, the greatest love we experience is the one that teaches us how to be better, braver, and more compassionate, long after the person who inspired it has gone.